Good evening. I'd like to call the Foxborough School Committee meeting to order. January 27th, 7 o'clock, Foxborough High School Media Center. I'd like to read the agenda for this evening. 7 o'clock, visitors. 7:10, approval of minutes. 7:15, teaching and learning highlights. An hour of code, Ms. Julie Grant, Ms. Laura Eikenson, and Ahern Middle School students. 7:30, FY15 budget public hearing and vote of recommendation. Ms. Spinelli, Mr. Yukna. 8 o'clock, discussion and approval of 2014-2015 capital improvement plan. Ms. Spinelli, Mr. Yukna. 8:20, Bi-County Collaborative quarterly update. Ms. Spinelli. 8:30, 2014 district report card. Ms. Spinelli, Dr. Berdos. 8:50, approval of 2014-2015 Foxborough Public School school calendar. Ms. Spinelli. 9 o'clock, discussion and approval of proposed increase in high school physical education requirement from 2 years to 4 years. Ms. Spinelli. 9:10, Racino mitigation, surrounding community agreement. 9:20, other matters. Before we start this evening, I just wanted to say a few words. On behalf of the school committee, I want to extend our deepest sympathies to the Burns family and to thank them for allowing us the opportunity to know and be a part of Sam's life. Sam was a role model, a pillar of strength and courage, and he inspired us with his many gifts. Foxborough has lost a beloved member, evident from the outpouring of love and support from this community and beyond. I want to acknowledge and thank Debbie Spinelli, our superintendent, and her team for their leadership and guidance during this very sorrowful time for our students, teachers, staff, families, and community. And I would like to take a moment of silence in memory of Sam Burns. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I mean, I do want to say, obviously our whole community in the world was saddened by Sam's passing, but I think I've said certainly publicly that what we learned from him and the legacy he leaves and the lessons that are really about what's most important in life is what he leaves behind for all of us. But that became even more apparent today is that Education Week, which is the national newspaper for education, and virtually every public school and probably private school in the country gets Ed Week either online or in the paper subscription, and they send out a weekly Smart Brief update with what's going on in education across the country, and they select the stories. And the headline of the email today with there's usually 4 or 5 links every week of things you might, and the headline was Lessons in Leadership from Sam Burns.
Really?
Wow.
So I think that just speaks to he's going to be teaching people what we learned from him so well, and he's terribly missed, and you can see signs of that all around the Foxborough High School, and the students at the high school and all of our schools continue to find ways that they want to memorialize him, and I would say it's a combination of sorrow and joy, because the things that he spoke of and taught people really bring a lot of people a lot of joy. So that's all.
Beautiful. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Katie.
Okay, going to move on to visitors. Any visitors that wish to be heard? Okay, we'll go on to approval of minutes. Are there any revisions, changes to the January 6th regular meeting minutes?
None here.
Okay, do you have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the meetings as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0, thank you. teaching and learning highlights.
All right. Would like to invite Ms. Julie Grant and Ms. Laura Isaacson up to the guest table, along with our three wonderful middle school students. So if you'll get a seat, grab a chair from wherever you can and drag it right up next to your teachers, and Mrs. Abrams as well. So this was something unique that happened this year that was kind of new, and it was actually a nationally unique activity called an Hour of Code. And the day that it was happening, I have to say, I was trying to get a hold of Mrs. Abrams about something, and she was heavily involved in her Hour of Code and couldn't even talk. So evidently, the whole middle school really got terribly involved in the Hour of Code, which has to do with computer programming. And I'm just going to turn it over to you, to the teachers, to explain what it was, and then we're especially interested in hearing from the students. If you wouldn't mind introducing them before you start, that would be great.
Okay, on the end is Carly Madden, 8th grade, and then next is Will Regan, 7th grade, and next is Yasabe, 8th grade.
And this is Laura Isaacson and Julie Grant. We prepared a quick slideshow presentation that gives you a little bit of a snippet, some screenshots of the code and the activities that the kids did. At the beginning, we have an introductory video that we showed the kids to engage them and kind of fill them in. We're not going to show you the whole video, it's like 5 minutes long, so I'll just kind of show you the highlights of it and fast forward to the parts that we liked. So we started the Hour of Code during Computer Science Week. It was the second week in December, and our whole school participated. Laura and art teacher did the 7th and 8th grade, and the 5th and 6th grade art teacher and I did the 5th and 6th grade students. So every student in our school got to do this. It starts off with a quote from Steve Jobs. I think everybody knows who he is.
I was 13 when I first got access to a computer.
My parents bought me a Macintosh in 1984 when I was 8 years old. I was in 6th grade.
I learned to code in college, freshman year, first semester, intro to computer science.
I wrote a program to play tic-tac-toe.
I think it was pretty humble beginnings. I think the first program I wrote asked things like, what's your favorite color? Or how old are you?
I first learned how to make a green circle and a red square appear on the screen.
The first time I actually had something come up and say, hello world, and I made a computer do that. It was just astonishing.
Learning how to program didn't start off as wanting to learn all of computer science or trying to master this discipline or anything like that. It just started off because I wanted to do this one simple thing. I wanted to make something that was fun for myself and my sisters. And I wrote this little program and then basically just add a little bit to it. And then when I needed to learn something new, I looked it up either in a book or on the internet and then added a little bit to it.
It's really not unlike kind of playing an instrument or something, or playing a sport.
I'm going to fast forward some of that.
So what I did is I introduced my 7th and 8th grade students to the programming. Everyone watched that video. I told them how I first did a little bit of programming back in high school. And, you know, it was just kind of amazing to me to be able to take a screen. Back then it was just green color or amber. Do you remember those days? Green or orange light. We got a computer in the school. And so what I did is I had a boat and I was able to get it to move across the screen. I'm like, this is so cool. This is awesome. And so the only way I could get any more of that, because they didn't really teach it in high school, go to the public library, look it up, read it in a book. So it was nice seeing the similar situations with the famous people that you're seeing on the screen. So, and we also wanted to let them know about the jobs that are out there in computer programming, computer science. So we're going to fast forward a bit to where, kind of how the job environment is set up, which is pretty cool.
Here we are, 2013. We all depend on technology to communicate, to bank, information, and none of us know how to read and write code.
I think Laura really wanted to show you guys
Should be 2 more frames.
where they work.
Yep.
Kids were really impressed with the work environment at some of these places like Facebook and Valve.
Fantastic chef,
Free food,
breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
free laundry.
Snacks, even places to play and video games and scooters. There's all these kind of interesting things around the office and places where people can play or relax, or go to think or play music or be creative.
Whether you're trying to make a lot of money or whether you just want to change the world, computer programming is an incredibly empowering skill to learn.
I think if someone had told me that software is really about humanity, that it's really about helping people by using computer technology, it would have changed my outlook a lot earlier.
To be able to actually come up with an idea and then see it in your hands and then be able to press a button and have it be in millions of people's hands. I mean, I think we're the first generation in the world that's really ever had that kind of experience.
Just to think that you can start something in your college dorm room and you can have a set of people who haven't built a big company before come together and build something that 1 billion people use as part of their daily lives is just crazy to think about, right? It's humbling and it's amazing.
The programmers of tomorrow are the wizards of the future. You know, you're going to look like you have magic powers compared to everybody else.
It's amazing. I think it's the closest thing we have to a superpower.
Great coders are today's rock stars. That's it.
This is really something right here. And I explained to the kids that's why we're doing this. So that was our lead-in. So this was a sample of the computer language and some statistics.
Luckily, at the end of the whole program, out of like the 15 million students that participated, there were more women. More girls were signed up. Like, this for the girls. So this is a simple program that we started out with, Lightbot, and it's kind of not really, you don't really think that you're doing programming. The kids will explain that, but it's more like a little game, and it's just telling you, okay, make this little guy light up all the squares.
This was very addicting. The kids loved it. They kept saying, can we play Lightbot? And then it got a little bit harder with some of the other games. They're like, can we go back to Lightbot? But, you know, the whole thing was explaining more that it's not hard, it's just you have to be persistent. So the left shows the first level, and then the last level, as you can see, gets more complicated, where the kids actually had to do a P1 and a P2 where they ran out of room. So their main includes the other two patterns. Did you want to speak to this, Will?
Well, I think Lightbot was very fun because I learned a lot about programming, and it made me think very hard, which was very entertaining for my mind. But I think what I got out of Lightbot is, what can I do more with a robot that just lights up and jumps and turns around? What can I do with a real robot that's on my desk? Can I make it move its arm? Maybe like had a helicopter wing on it. Can I just make it fly or something? But then I also thought, what if I had the whole computer? Can I program a computer? So it made me think about a lot of other things that I can do with programming. Maybe want to do other things in programming. And I've been doing those since.
Excellent.
So, Will was the first person that came up to me the very next class and said, guess what? I did it like all the night. And I continue to do it. And then I checked up on his progress, and you'll see that too. Only a small portion of it, but you see all the progress of all the students. And he just kept forging ahead and keep going to get to the end, all on his own.
Wow. That's
Go
impressive.
forward there to the next one.
This was another, this one was where it got a little bit more complicated. They had to use the leaf blocks instead of just hopping from block to block and using the patterns. Did you guys do Scratch? You guys, a little bit of it?
A little bit,
Yeah.
not really.
I had my 5th and 6th graders make Christmas cards and holiday cards using this, and they had, the little characters are called sprites. So you can see animating sprite 1. This was the code to make the reindeer, because that's the one that we've highlighted, to make him move. And then you have the penguin and the Christmas tree. And then I made a card while the kids were making theirs so I could kind of help them through the problems that we were all having, because I hadn't done this either. And I'll show you my sample card. Hopefully it works. So this is an scratch.mit.edu, and it's really fun for any of you to try it. And I have my computer club kids making projects. They can make any cards with these, and you put your instructions here for the reader of your card, what you want them to click on. And so you click the penguin first, and you can make it talk and how long you want it to, the words to stay up. And then they have music you can add to it. And the neat thing about this one is the kids got to use some math, because we figured out to make the reindeer go up and down, you had to use the X and Y. So X is this way and Y is this way. So the kids, we get to talk about a little bit where math is more than just in the math class. Fun stuff too. And then they had to figure out the degrees to make it go up and down in the right spot. And then make a repeating pattern, so he kept going up and down. So he had to go minus 15 degrees one way, and so there was quite a process to it. And then the other pieces, the other sprites all move too, and the tree changes lights. So back out of this one. And Angry Birds, I know you guys all did these. Did anyone want to talk about this one? Asa?
So when we first started off doing our code on this, a lot of the earlier puzzles were really, really, really simple. So I'm sure you've all played Angry Birds before, or at least someone who has. Yeah. So as you can see, the idea is trying to get the green pig, right? So you do this by making the bird move forward twice, but early on it's really easy, but it gets a lot harder with a bunch of other commands and other variables you can manipulate, and it really is a challenge. And honestly, I really do feel that I was really challenged doing this, and I'm the kind of person who really likes challenges, so I really felt this was a really enjoyable experience for me.
It's great. Carly, do you want to talk about this?
Angry Birds, it makes coding fun to do, and it makes it easy because there's videos that help you along the way. So if you get stuck, you can just watch the video and it helps you figure it out so you can keep going.
Excellent. Yes, there were tutorials after so many levels. Bill Gates would come on and he would give you instructions on the what ifs, because there actually were what if statements and if then statements. A lot of really nice educational words that we use every day. And Chris, who's the famous basketball guy? Yes, Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh gave them instructions, so it was really neat. So they liked the tutorials. And this was the first level, and then it got harder, as they always do. Well, this was a different...
it moved on from Angry Birds to Plants vs. Zombies. There were multiple levels for every single section. And then in those levels, if you used the amount of blocks that they allowed you to use, if you stayed within the allotted amount, they give you a certain level of trophies. So you'd get gold and, and so forth. It would go down from there if you went over the amount of blocks. This is actually Will's last level of the entire program with the Plants vs. Zombies. So I copied that tree, so that was all animated, drawing line by line to go out. And he designed all of that on the right-hand side. And Will can tell you about what happened once he finished the program.
Once I finished the program, which was very sweet, is I got a prize. And the prizes I didn't trust it at first, but as the program the site got bigger and bigger, they had celebrities doing it. I figured out that it was just an excellent opportunity to get like a free $10 gift card to iTunes or Dropbox storage, and it just made me feel like I did all this, but not only do I just get the reward of self-accomplishment, I also get the reward of an actual reward.
Wow. So they had that set up on the code.org,
Through
that if you went
code.org.
through all of their,
Yes,
They did.
if you
the people who
accomplish
created it
all of
had-
the levels.
Wow.
Correct. So then Carly and Yas, I have them during the extra long period. So they ended up teaming up together and did it during the 20 minutes period and kept working together on every single level, each class, to try to get to the end.
Nice.
Same as Will did.
And on
And-
any of those with the leaf blocks, it also will show you, if you click on show code up in the corner right up here, it shows the actual code.
Yeah, you'll
And
see it in a
the
minute.
actual computer language where it has the move, parentheses, and all that.
So the next screen is the dashboard just from my students and what levels that they did. A lot of them ended up logging on and then working with someone else, and the program actually recommended that you work with a partner so you could work on it together and try to figure out which thing might be going wrong, so you could get all the way through. So that spreadsheet there goes on for pages to the right of what these three accomplished. And then of course it goes pages down for all of the students that were signed up for it. And then Yasa went on from here on his own, and he can tell you about what he did.
Oh,
I think
apparently.
go to the next
Yeah.
one.
So, like, after I stopped, or at least rather finished with Hour of Code, like the code.org stuff, I went on to another constituent website called Code Academy. And over there, it's like Hour of Code, right? So it's a bunch of puzzles present to you, but instead of the little, like, blocks, they have, like, actual JavaScript, like you can see right here with all the parentheses and colons and semicolons. And I felt that after I had done with the little leaf blocks, this kind of became more, like, apparent to me. Like, after you really, like, do it really with the code.org stuff, you can kind of, like, get, like, the grasp of what, like, everything does. And then when you transfer it to real JavaScript with, like, that doesn't look quite as pretty, it really will click easier, and you really will get the grasp of coding. And that's kind of important, I think, that everyone should be able to code. Because, like, it really is, like, an essential tool. Because we sort of live in a world where everybody owns a computer. So not being able to, like, you know, code that computer is a bit of a... Like, it's really helpful to know. I don't know, that's what I said, yeah.
Even some of the websites that we have today, like a lot of teachers are converting over to Google Sites, and a lot of those have templates and you don't really have to write the code, but sometimes when you get more involved with the site, like some of the more intense things I've added, I actually have to go in and look at the code and delete things and rearrange them. So the code is, you can get away with not knowing it with some things, but it's so much better if you know it.
Bet it is.
These were the tutorials. So for each one, so they had Chris Bosch, they had Mark Zuckerberg, and each one like kind of walked them through the steps as they got further and further along the if level and the if else. And I'm just going to show you, how about we just do the wrap up one? Yeah, I'm just going to do the wrap up video. It's a quick one.
Hey guys, we're here at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab in the room where we control the Curiosity rover, which is on Mars right now exploring the planet. The rover navigates Mars using a computer program that works a lot like the last puzzle you just solved. The last bit of code you created lays out instructions that can tell any robot how to find its way through a non-branching maze or tunnel of any complexity or length. It could be a zombie, a bird, a self-driving car, or even a Mars rover. The code you wrote can get it where it needs to go.
You may not think you learned a lot in your first hour of code, but actually, these basic concepts you just learned are at the heart of every program or app that you'll ever create. So we've learned about repeat loops, repeat until statements, if statements, the if-else block. Hey, guess what? Don't stop here. There's tons of other stuff to learn. Visit code.org and continue your education into coding. Once you complete our full 20-hour curriculum, you'll have mastered the basics of programming and can start learning how to write phone apps, games, or robot instructions. Really anything, you name it. Technology is changing everything we do, and it doesn't matter if you're young or old. Programming is fun, and guess what? Anyone can do it.
So there were some applications where they could write their own apps. So there were all kinds of really fun activities. Did any of you guys check those out?
Yeah.
Those were a little more complicated. I was told those were kind of, our tech department said those were geared more towards high school. A little challenging, but.
Does anybody have any questions for anyone? Any of the students or?
Put it up
I
to the
do.
committee? Yes.
Anyone?
Did you learn or experience yet that so much of this isn't just you and your face in a screen, that you have to have a lot of collaboration and trust in each other to achieve a goal that the whole product would be, whether it's ultimately watching cochlear implants make somebody hear for the first time, and those are so important, that there's so many people in the background that get you to the final product, that collaboration is so important. Did you have that experience yet? I know it comes with as you develop your skills and get better and better, but when they made the reference to the sports and music, you have to practice and you have to be in synchronization with the other people that you're all playing different instruments with or different positions on a team. Did you have to do that yet, or are you looking forward to it maybe?
Even though I did it myself.
Don't let me put you on the spot.
Even though I did it myself, I felt like if I had another person that was helping me, if I forgot something, they could do something else, almost like a person on a team. Like I'll be offense, they'll be defense, and doing different things, and it's probably been a lot easier.
Like Miss Grant, when she did her card and showed you where she may have had to fix or tweak or adjust something, it's a good reference point for you as you work forward through a problem or an issue, right? Cool. Thanks. That's it for me.
Oh, all right.
Well, first I want to congratulate the 3 students on coming and presenting. We're very proud of you guys. This is another great example of a teaching and learning highlight. But my question is actually for the staff. This is, to me, an example of one of those areas that we go maybe above and beyond what you necessarily would have to teach or would be required to teach. And it's a great example of, I think, new innovative ways to make sure our students are learning what they need to learn. My question is, are we going to go further with this? What are your thoughts going
Right
beyond
now,
now?
I've been doing more of it with my students at Computer Club, Tuesday afternoons. It's open to all grade levels, so I told the kids if they want to do more to come after school. Mrs. Isaacson and I met during staff day to add some code into our curriculum.
And they do plan to continue this. The person that you saw in that first video, he really didn't realize how huge this was going to get. And he was like, okay, I'm hoping, for so many, like 80,000, let's get 100,000 people. And then they hit the first million. They're like, wow, like this is crazy. And then what he ended up saying, he sent us emails and things, is that we plan to pursue this and keep going with it and do it again next year and add more to it. So I'm looking forward to that next year to go again.
Thank you.
That's great.
Great.
Just the fact that it started with, kind of exciting, like nationally, kids across the country started on the same day, on the same event. And I also think I liked your question because it shows that we're looking for all kinds of opportunities to advance their learning or challenge them or, reach out and something new that's going to grab them. And I think we may have 3 very successful future adults sitting here in front of us, career-wise, because you can tell if they can tackle that and keep going. Whatever they choose, they have the persistence to keep going. But I think this is a great example of how it might not be in our curriculum right now, but they look for other ways to continue it, to introduce it, to get kids excited about something brand new. So,
And they're clearly very excited about it.
Yes.
And we thank you for coming in and sharing it with us.
good for you.
That was awesome.
That's
Okay.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very impressive. I won't be learning though, so I'm going to rely on you to code all the apps and functions that I will need in my future.
Thanks, guys.
That's excellent.
That's great.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the FY15 budget public hearing and vote of recommendation.
Oh, my.
Ms. Spinelli and Mr. Yukna.
Yes, as the committee knows, this is our public budget hearing to finish our discussion of the proposed FY15 budget. And we've had to remind people at home, we've had two public discussions, one in December, the initial presentation, and then one's earlier this month. And there are a few things in there that we would like to finish discussing with you, and I'll turn the details over to Bill if you have questions about the budget. So I think at this point, we've had some preliminary discussions about a few things. So I think it'd be probably most helpful for us if you ask, what are you still wondering about in the budget? What can we still discuss? Are there still some questions you may have?
Okay.
I think, and also before you got that, the updated budget that you received in the package basically has one change to it, and by contract, our teachers are required to notify the administration if they plan to complete coursework that would move them on the lane schedule across from an educational point of view. Typically, we budget, or not even typically, we have budgeted $70,000 a year for that, and we come very close to it depending on what the teachers are doing. This year is an exceptional year. We have 43 staff members that actually have put in their letters saying that based on the current coursework that they're in, that they anticipate by September 1st, they will have met the needs to take that lane change. In 9 of the cases, not only do they get, one actually has 2 lane changes that they'll be able to make by that time frame, but some of them, because they are moving from an area that would only have potentially, let's say, 12 steps to an area that now has a 13th step, they also obviously will qualify to go down the step as well. So, 43 would be basically an additional $41,000 over what we're budgeting. So we'd be, roughly in that $111,000 range for the budget. So this draft that I gave you as a second shows you what that looks like. It really only changes one line, which is on the, I think, second to last page, which is where the lane change amount is. And we did review this, with Randy as well, to let him know, and he basically said that it should be presented to the committee. Because again, it's a fairly large, it's not like we're trying to make up for 1 or 2, overs or unders type of thing. When you're doing this, it's at $41,000, it's quite a bit more than what we were anticipating.
So Bill, just to be clear, so our preliminary budget request back in December was $30,456,030. So our new, as of tonight, with that $41,000 that we have reviewed with the town finance department, is $30,497,030.
No.
Is that the new number?
508.
I saw that, but.
That's the town appropriation.
That's my question.
Yes, it's $30,508,585.
Okay. I'm just, and this is something I should have picked up, but on our PowerPoint from before, something's not matching up for me, but it could be me, so I'm just gonna put it right out there, because I wanna make sure that the committee is voting on the correct number.
Yeah, good point. That the 41 added to that obviously is a different number. Okay.
So Debbie, just to help Bill, so you're looking at a preliminary report that showed 30.4 million, and you're adding to it the 41,000?
On our PowerPoint,
and
yes.
coming up to a slightly different number, which you're saying?
Yes.
And what's the number that you come up to then?
If my chicken scratch is correct.
Yep.
30,497,30, unless I've missed something between this December, that's why I'm gonna rely on Billy for a minute.
Yeah.
Unless there was something that, was this the original PowerPoint, which I think it was?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, the $30,595,000 that you see down below.
Yeah.
That was the preliminary projection that was given to the town.
Right.
As where we thought we would be. The 30 million, originally was 30,467,000 was what we ended up coming in with on our first level. So obviously we were lower than what the original draft back to the town in November timeframe was. And now we're at the 30,508,000.
But that's still different than the 34.
So what is what is the final?
$30,508,585.
It's on the last page of this.
Right. Okay.
Katie, can I ask a question?
Oh, absolutely, please.
So, the numbers that we've just said for total aggregate budget request are all within a rounding error. I know it's important to get it precise, but we're not talking about dramatic magnitude of change. Bill, my question, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm
No, it's
missing
okay.
because the original draft that I'm looking at in the presentation says 30,467,585. The original budget that we handed out says 30,467,000.
467.
This is just the page I went to.
Yeah, so it's, just.
That was.
swapped it out.
No, there was a.
There was one
that
in
was
between.
the original one.
Yeah, okay.
Before we corrected a mistake that was
Yeah.
in the numbers.
Okay.
So you have an older version.
Good.
Great.
Okay,
That was not the one we
perfect.
handed out.
Okay,
Okay, so the budget
Yeah.
request now, that clarifies. I remember we substituted.
Yeah, I
okay.
know.
All right, so the new bottom line budget request is $30,508,585.
Which includes the 41,000. Okay, great.
Correct.
Okay.
Just wanted to make
Okay.
sure because
No, I'm glad
I
you
could see,
double-checked,
I could see
yes.
what she had in here and
Yes.
I wanted to make sure that nobody goes home looking
Yes.
at different numbers and wondering why.
Thank you, Debbie.
Okay.
Bruce, did you want to make a comment?
So it's a big number, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah.
The more important question to me always is the year-to-year increase and how that big number compares to prior big numbers. So, Bill, this is a 3.74% increase, if I read the packet right.
Correct.
Could you just comment, based on your assessment, I'll make an editorial comment and then I'll ask my question, but the town has great trust in you and Debbie and hopefully the committee in making sure that our budget requests are prudent. And I know that being on the budget subcommittee that, you guys are. But it's always valuable to me and perhaps the public to hear your perspective as a town member and working with Randy and the municipal side. That 3.74% increase, I can see from my packet, that's a lower year-to-year increase as an example from last year. But can you just comment on affordability or your perspective of that number as it relates to the current town economics, or, because I'd value your opinion of.
Well, thanks, but I think what, when we go through this process, obviously, we start, other than putting our original draft, which is, the number that was slightly larger, the 30,595,000, and that was based on, trying to pull forward back in October what, our salaries were. And we sit down with Randy, and Randy's doing the exact same thing on the town side with debt, the town departments. And then he's also doing the same thing relative to revenue. And, obviously, he has a much bigger job on the revenue side, trying to project, what the new growth will be, and everything of that nature. So when we sat down at that time, and Deb and I and Bob Cutler and Randy sat down with the lumped numbers all together, we could see that there was still a buffer where we weren't spending, the entire town's revenue base at that point. So I think obviously, not that we use that as a gauge, other than that, obviously we can't exceed that number, and we know that that's the issue. But then we also go back on our side, and I think this has been the practice, for the last couple of years that I've been here, and I believe before that, where, a lot of people talk about a bottom-up budget. And in effect, 80% or so of our budget is salaries. And we do go all the way down by person. Our budget actually, the salary budget is actually each person, what position they sit in, what lane they're in, what step they're in, and that's how all these payroll numbers are. These aren't just numbers that we said, okay, add 3% to them. We're virtually taking every single person throughout the district to it. So, and then obviously we take our expenses. And most of our expenses are, if they're not utilities, which we can pretty much map, and I can show you years and years of how those have laid out by building, so we know what we use, obviously, and we also know what our rates are. Town-wise has been very wise as far as having multi-year contracts. So, as an example, my utility bills for next year are pretty solid because I know what the rates are going to be, and shy of a phenomenal year from a weather point one way or the other, we'll hit those numbers pretty close. So when you look at our major numbers, they're either in the utility side or they're in service contracts. We do have a tremendous amount of service contracts, leases, and not leases, licenses and things of that nature that we are paying for. Obviously, a lot of the software that we run throughout the district, there's a license fee for it. Some are based on number of students, some are based on number of application uses. by the time you pull it down to what is truly arbitrary spending, which really would come to some degree to your supply lines within the schools, the actual principals don't have a lot of leeway within the supply lines because there's not a lot left. So there, you know, when you look at this budget overall, I think it's, again, it's grounded in where it comes from. I mean, it's not, again, just numbers, which makes me feel more comfortable. I'm not just putting an estimate out there based on percentages. But it's also grounded in what the town revenue forecast looks like. And each year, we obviously bounce back and forth. And, you know, based on what just came out with the governor's report on, you know, his budget, proposal, you know, we're still in the same basic realm. The one surprise the town got was a much higher pension liability than they were anticipating because of a new calculation on the way they want to do it. Again, taking that into account, we seem to still fit within the niche that the town side is asking us to stay within. It, you know, never means that you couldn't spend less, and obviously, you know, from the perspective that would, on our side, would be a cut in services, because obviously we'd have to pull back in areas to do that. And it really would be salaries, because there's not a heck of a lot left when you get to the expense side.
I just like your perspective on, you know, as a 3.7% increase, is it within, you know, the realm of responsibility in light of the other factors you just mentioned, governor's indications you're getting, pension liability discussion or news that's come out, town municipal side, how that's looking.
I guess the hard part about that is it's contractual.
Yes.
So I think it is reasonable in light of what the, you know, where we are overall, but it's not something shy of, like I said, making actual cuts in positions that you're going to change the rate down.
Understand.
So.
I think another note to add too is that when we have these meetings throughout, before the budget process begins and then throughout, it's not done the way that sometimes it is in some municipalities, where here's the pot, we divide it, this is your percentage, do with it what you will. It's never been that way since I've been back here, at least. So it's more like, this is the revenue available, how much you think you're going to need, and then do we fit within the budget picture that they have with the revenues? And as Bill said, there was a pretty good buffer back when we first started meeting, but that doesn't mean we go up and say, oh, well, then our percentage. We really don't. We just stick with what we think we should reasonably request. And then the buffer is exactly for things like this, where 2 months later, at this point, 3 months later from we first had the conversation, if we've got more people ready for lane change, or another town department, something unexpected has come up that they're inserting, then that's what that's for. So I think it actually is a process that works, because we share pretty transparently what's going on with us. They share what's going on at the town side and with the revenue. And we work, I don't want to say within that frame, but actually under it, under that radar, to make sure that in the end, the town can afford what we collectively need across all departments. So I think that process for me has worked quite well.
I agree.
I know at the last meeting, we had some discussion about positions, and I don't know whether we want to review that, the additions that we have for FY15 on the information that Bill supplied us in our packets. The 0.40 Ahern Middle School vice principal, increase to 1.0, the wellness teacher 1.0, and the Ahern Middle School night custodian. And then there were those hiring adjustments that were from FY14. I don't know whether people have had a chance to think about, you know, this from our last meeting, whether there wants to be further discussion about those additions. I know that they, you know, we did get a list of positions that at our last meeting regarding the priorities, and I just wanted to open up to see whether there was any further discussion needed on that or not.
Well, if I may?
Yeah, absolutely.
The math teacher, I don't know if I've been wrestling with it. I'm inclined to go with the math teacher, but rely on the expertise of our administrative recommendations.
Math specialist, right? That
Correct.
you're referring to, yeah.
I'm sorry, the
Right.
math
No, I just want to make
specialist.
sure that people were using the same
So
terminology.
I had a few conversations out, you know, with you know, the people in town that aren't on boards, and didn't meet with any resistance to either, but heard a preference for a math specialist. I don't know if we want to discuss that. I saw, and understand that we're, is the right term, out of I apologize, is it that we're out of compliance with the state, or that we're in danger of that?
The state law, which is Chapter 71, Section 3,
Yeah.
Physical Education,
Yeah.
states, physical education shall be taught as a required subject in all grades for all students in the public schools for the purpose of promoting the physical well-being of students. And then it goes on with some other details. So that is pretty simply what the law says. So, that's why we brought it to your attention. I certainly welcome the committee discussion about where you think the priorities of the community are and what the priorities of this committee is, which is fine. I think that's what we're all here for. But that's why we brought it forward, because we haven't been able to meet that requirement, as you know. And so it's up to us to bring forward anything where we're out of compliance or where we don't meet a particular mandate. But it's certainly, the idea of what your priorities are is very important to us, so.
This is my fault for not understanding completely something, and so I'm going to ask only for myself. In our present state with the with the health and wellness staff that we have and/or requested, if we don't go forward with the recommended health and wellness teacher, what are the consequences of that if we have to put it, say, off a year? I'm hypothesizing, or go to the town and ask for both. I mean, these aren't, I don't think, luxury items for the school at all. I think they're both very, very important. And I think what I got from the presentation last time was that this was a decision that the administration struggled with in which to make one over two or 1A and 1B, however
Agreed.
you want to categorize it. So if we didn't go with that and we went with a math,
Specialist.
thank you.
Elementary school.
Yeah, for the elementary, well, it just seems like we'd have a column now in all the elementary schools and have a good, strong.
Foundation.
That was why
And
it
I
was
like that.
a
just
good conversation
personally.
for us, too.
Right, and I'm sure you have. And so, if we didn't go with the health and wellness, what's the downside immediately? Like, if we went with the math teacher?
I don't know that there's any terrible hammer. I don't know. The best honest answer I can give you is I don't know. As we said, we have a coordinated program review beginning this spring that'll conclude in the fall. That probably not going to ignore it, but it doesn't mean, that anybody's going to be diving into. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, because I don't know. I know that we had a finding 5 years ago, and that's why we have the remedy documentation in place, which doesn't mean that remedy documentation meets this requirement. It's just what is required of us if we don't meet it. So, I mean, I don't know. I honestly, I couldn't tell you. I don't.
I think it's a really good question.
Yeah,
I really do.
but I
And
don't know the answer.
When was this?
This has always been the law.
Yeah, it's always
For
been the
many,
law.
many
Okay,
I guess
so-
I have a question
Yeah.
about just how do we compare to other schools in the state? I mean, are all the other schools in the state in compliance with this?
Many.
Or are we?
I don't know the
an
exact numbers,
outlier?
but yes, several many districts have 4 years required of phys ed because it's the law.
Sure.
I'm sure there are others like us who don't meet it and have to do what we do, because actually our remedy, we got the idea from some other communities 5 years ago when they said you don't meet it, you need to write a remedy, what you plan to do, and honestly, we just did what some other high schools were doing for a remedy. So there certainly are other districts who are not doing it. I just think for us, the reason it ended up in the budget, a nose ahead, is because other districts, I think, have a better argument for saying, we've already cut positions over the last 5-6 years, we can't afford it, and that's but we can't say that. So, from my position, I would be remiss if I didn't bring it forward. But
Well, I think the other thing, like you said, is we're kind of on the eve of this anticipated, what's the word?
Coordinated program review,
Coordinated- the
CPR,
program
but the
review.
law hasn't changed.
Right, so, they'll, I mean, in all likelihood, they do the review and we don't have this position, there will be a finding, law mandates that we
Yes,
do
they-
this. So they'll say, well, why don't you? And, then we proceed, I guess, as we would with any finding. I think your point is well taken as well, which is other districts may not have the financial challenges that
Right.
we obviously don't have this year. I mean, in the sense that we have enough for a position, whereas other districts are probably just trying to meet and maintain. It's very difficult. I find it's, how do you weigh it? It's the law, it's required, it's expected. Yet, we do have these math specialists. We've seen improvements in scores. We're talking about making math a mandatory for seniors, a requirement, another requirement. So we need to have that foundation continue to be very solid and strong to support those students who are going to be eventually taking math when they're seniors. So this is a dilemma.
Because it may not be our highest local priority.
Right.
Which is a fair way, I think, to say it. So if the board has interest in the other position, then you would likely see it back next year. Maybe the remedy follows a year. I mean, I'm a rule follower. This is the
Right,
rule,
right,
so I have to report. But I'm not worried and stressed over it. I think that whichever way, I agree we need both. So I think this is a great, I'm actually a little relieved that it's in your hands.
Gee, thank you. Yeah, but I want to hear from the committee, definitely.
Well,
Tina.
can you refresh my memory? 5 years ago, when we had our last review, did we have freshman and sophomore physical
Yes.
education at
It
that
was
time?
exactly
So it was
the way it is
exactly the
now.
way it is now.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I couldn't remember when we reinstituted
My guess is it was
that.
exactly that way the 5 years prior.
Okay.
But I just wasn't working here at the time, so.
So the remedy plan is to put it in for all 4 years.
The remedy is to meet that,
Yeah.
which would take another staff member.
Joe, do you have a question?
I was wondering, would this start for would my class have to take gym for all 4? I know the 2015 won't have to because they didn't take it this year.
Yes. Your class, this year's sophomores, would have to take like what we call a quarter course next year, yes.
Like, would they take it full year or just half year?
You'd have it half a year every other day.
Oh, what about full year, like?
No,
Two half.
nobody will have to take it full year, because the law doesn't say you have to take it a full year, it just says that it has to be a requirement
For a half year, right?
for a half a year,
Okay.
which is the way we're gonna do it.
Yeah, for
if we do
junior.
it.
Then the 2015 won't, because they didn't have to take it this year, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, then only for a half year. What about for the freshmen and sophomores next year? Full year?
They would do whatever they're doing now,
Full year, like what I'm doing.
yes.
Then my class will just be, so are you allowed to choose a semester, either semester 1 or semester 2?
I don't know if students would have the choice, or if, depending on your other course selections, if we'd have to tell you which it is.
Okay.
Questions?
Yes, Steve?
Go ahead.
I was just saying Joe's questions were good ones.
Yeah.
You are, that's a good question.
Well, and I think it dovetails to what I'm talking about. The student reps here talked about how that they saw the health and wellness position valuable because it would open up opportunities for, as was also discussed, I think, by one of the principals, as the whole student, and that there was an aspect to health
Right.
moving forward with an educational, sorry, this coffee is just not doing anything for me tonight. It helps the students learn better when they have vigorous activity during the day.
Yes, that's actually
right, yes.
proven.
Right way to put it?
That's
Okay.
actually proven.
Okay, right.
Because there's
And I'm not
actually
doubting
some.
that. And then
Saying
also the point was made, I think, about the adaptive sports that are done for students with different needs, outside of the general
Yes.
need.
We are
students.
doing that, and this does not change or influence that.
Right.
In fact, I have her teed up for the Teaching and Learning Highlight in about a month, so we can learn a little bit more about that.
So I bounced that around, plus the math specialist being an additional $9,000 on top of the health and wellness teacher, and still came up with that I personally am inclined to ask that we go towards a math specialist. Not demand, you know, nor anything, just that's my inclination. But the consequences, and again, with the highest respect for the administrative decision to put it at number 1 versus 1A and 1B, okay? So.
I do have a question, though. I'm wondering if, I mean, it sounds like right now the revenue forecast is what it is what Bill presented. And obviously, if there was obviously more capacity for another position, you would have brought that tonight for us. If that were to change,
Well, if it were
and
to
could
change-
impact whether a second position could be, how would?
So you can't go up
I know.
from what you vote on tonight.
I know.
Right. And I also think just the other piece to that is Randy did present to the Board of Selectmen the desire to use the balance of the funds that, you know, we knew was the gap, to at least use as a placeholder for whatever they may do for the rental of a town hall facility next year. So the way I look at it, even if there was minor revenue changes, which there doesn't seem like to be anything large between now and the budget process, I think most of it's pretty much spoken for, and I think we've, you know, kind of also supported what the town needs on their side as well.
Yeah, I
So
just
I-
wanted to open
yeah.
it, I wanted to get the question
So I
answered,
guess the
so,
only,
you know.
just to be to your point,
Yeah.
a little less formally, so if we can't go up over what you vote tonight,
Right,
that
I
would
know
be the
that,
bottom line.
yes.
But there are still a lot of, you never know, possibilities between now and say, oh no, because the kids have to pick their course schedule. So you know, we can't predict right now with we don't know the number of retirements. We always make up $125,000 through the retirements. It's hard to make up a lot more than that. But, I mean, we don't know if we get to August and there would actually be a little wiggle room. It's very unlikely. So if there were a way to accomplish this between now and, say, June, we'd certainly come back and let you know how we could do that, but it can't be by going up. Because whatever you vote on tonight is what will be going to town meeting.
So it would basically kind of fit into the hiring adjustments, kind of like what we did, or no, but it wouldn't have any, obviously,
No.
additional monetary association with
Right.
it. It could be an FTE, but it wouldn't, it would be a change
Yeah, and I
from
can't right
something,
now
and I know.
envision how that could
Yeah,
happen.
Yeah,
But
okay, all right, so
I mean,
we
right
would-
now I can't, but I guess you never know, but right now I can't figure out how that could happen unless something big changed. For example, no, I don't even want to give any
No,
examples.
don't.
Because we never know.
I just wanted to ask the question, just so that we understand whatever decision we make
Highly
tonight.
unlikely, I would call it.
Yeah, okay, you know, one position tonight, in terms of if
I
we
think
want to
that's
make a
what we feel
change.
comfortable with,
Yeah.
and we don't feel comfortable
Right. Okay.
saying we need both. I mean, we do need both, but we don't feel comfortable asking for more than the
So
one.
I know, Joe, you've had your hand
Two
raised, I'm sorry,
questions.
go ahead.
One is, so this wouldn't affect health. Juniors and seniors would not need to take health, right?
No, they don't now, and they would not. That's correct.
And then for the budget, we won't, like the years before, you guys would have like a final, go back to it in March or April. That won't be that didn't happen last year.
It can't happen by charter, Joe. We can only do it, what they vote tonight is the last chance they have to vote on a change.
Yeah, but you guys still talked about it in like
Oh,
March.
Yeah, sometimes we do.
But not last year you didn't. You guys gonna have to do it this year?
No,
Oh,
we don't. That's unusual.
okay. Thank you.
So I have a comment. For what it's worth, I agree with Steve. I came in here thinking I would prefer personally to spend money on the math specialist, but sitting here and listening to the discussion, I don't know how we as a publicly elected board can vote on something that goes against law.
I know.
So while we have not suffered any consequence in the past for not complying or being at state, I have a hard time sitting here and voting anything other than the way the administration has recommended. So I'm delighted we're doing as well in math as we are. I wish we could have an additional math specialist. Maybe next year we can. But the way it's been framed to us, I don't know how it's really a decision.
I actually share your views, Bruce. I mean, again, this, if I can, this piece of paper right here, you know, I mean, it's, you know, chapter 71, section 3, physical education. I mean, it is a requirement, and I feel the same way. Would love to have math specialists, but I feel like we do need to comply with what is expected in terms of the education we're providing at the high school, and so I wish there was more in the pot that we could expand this, but we can't, that's the reality. So, but I wanted to bring it up, because I know I had brought it up at the last meeting talking about it, I know there was discussion. I don't know if anybody else wants to weigh in on this, or we're ready to, there are other pieces of the budget as well that we want to discuss,
Well,
or- Yes, Bev?
the math specialist can be shared, right?
Yes, they are.
I mean, they
existing two,
already
yes.
Shared
are,
among
so
three
it's not
schools.
like
That's right.
Yes.
there was a complete hole there, or
Right.
2 elementary schools are far ahead of the one lacking school.
Right.
These are both partial holes,
Right.
both. They're half dug. If we're gonna continue with the whole.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the budget as presented tonight for presentation, I guess, to the town at $30.508 million, $30,508,585, which includes the wellness teacher.
I'll second that motion.
Further discussion? I just want to say, both positions, each has so much merit, obviously. And certainly, the third math specialist would be great to have in our third, ideal, absolutely. But I appreciate everybody's input, because I think that this is really important to process this and to talk about it. So I just kind of wanted to throw that in.
I mean, I agree. I think this is a productive discussion.
Yes.
I think it's clear that that math specialist is at the top of the
Yeah.
priority list for next year as well. And, as a lawyer and the ultimate rule follower, I have a hard time disregarding state statute myself. So I would agree with, the way Bruce had presented it, and Debbie has framed it as well.
So we have to follow the law. That's the consensus?
Well, we're going to.
Because the consequences
We don't know.
are tying us
Yeah,
to that. Is that what we're saying?
Well, I think we're saying we don't know what the consequences are, but we will know that we're not in compliance with that statute. And as a result, I mean, there will be a deficiency, I'm sure, noted if we're not in compliance with it, and then for whatever the response is, Debbie's saying she doesn't know what it is.
Yeah, well,
But-
how could we? We
Right.
don't really know. I can just tell
Yeah.
you that, this is actually an email from a superintendent in 2011 who had a finding, and so even districts who struggle more financially than we do, I guess is fair to say, that have made moves to meet this law. And they're in much worse shape than we are, but they have gotten behind it because, it doesn't, the requirement is the requirement. So I would say it's probably true that the local priority may not match the stated legal priority right now, but that's why this has been such a difficult conversation, both at our level and here at the table, I think, is because there is a little bit of discrepancy in what the feelings are about the local priority versus this.
But you did present to us at the last meeting, and Janelle was here, and the principal was here, and you spoke to us about why this would be valuable to our local need.
Absolutely.
So while it may not be my personal first preference of, local need, I think that I come to the conclusion I did based on the fact it serves both. It meets the
It
state
does.
in it.
It
But
is good for kids. I don't want people to think this is just
Oh, right,
compliance.
right.
I think
No,
our
I-
two student reps actually did the most
That-
eloquent, because
I
I
noted
even
them,
had the
yeah.
article laminated about, to give them, but they had, by the way, this is their last day of semester 1 finals, so, because of the snow day last week, so that's why they're not here. But, I think they actually, sort of on the spot, gave the best
Yeah, it had merit, had a lot of merit.
ideas about why this is good for students. So it really is good for students.
It is,
So I don't
absolutely.
want to, I agree, thank you for saying that. I don't want to, in any way, imply that I don't think this is good for students, because it's absolutely the right thing to do for students. It's just, which is our next priority, can be neck and neck.
So the math specialist would move to the top of the list for next year?
It is, yes, it is at the top of our list now, and I
Right.
can't imagine anything trumping that at the moment.
Okay, well, we had a motion on the table.
And I
We
seconded
had,
it.
we had discussion, now we have some more hands from the audience who want to speak.
You can have more discussion if you want.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Okay. Larry, would you like to?
Yeah, I'm just
Contribute?
wondering, is next year the first year we would be out of compliance, or have we been?
No, we've
So
been out
that's, so we've been out of compliance for
Mm.
a long time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So what's special about next year?
Well, because they accept your remedy each time.
Right.
But, and I don't know what happens. I don't know if they have a magic number of how many, I don't know.
Yep.
All I know is that I was here last time, 5 years ago, when we were out of compliance. The time I could say, don't blame me, I just got back here. And now I can't. So I have to bring it forward because, let's say we have another finding, and the coordinated program review results are very public, and we bring it to this table. And I certainly wouldn't want, our committee to find out at some future point that we put forward another position, and they said, we haven't met this physical education requirement, why didn't you say something or put it forward? So that's my duty, I think, to do that. So we don't really know. Amy and I both had experiences where this requirement was not met, and we also have experiences with other superintendents who then had to meet the requirement, but what exactly prompted them? And many just already have met it for years and years and never lost it at some point.
Right.
So I can't tell you what other stories are or what might happen. I just know that I don't have anything to say this time being out of compliance, except still are. So
I'm just kind of struck by the irony of, we had the hour to code here, right, where we had these students who were really turned on to computer science, software engineering. To get into a good computer science or software engineering program at a decent college, you're going to take, first of all, you have to have, probably that 600 math score in SATs. You're going to have to take just as much math in college as a physicist or a chemist. It's a lot of math to do computer science or software engineering. So, I think academically, that having another math specialist, particularly at the early grades where students really, kind of form in their own mind the opinion that, oh, I'm not a math person, or I am a math person. I mean, there's just so much leverage there. So I'm just talking as a parent, not as an AdCom member.
I think we all agree.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
So
Disagree with
I'd say take the risk. Take the risk.
Well, I think this is why we're having a tough time and while.
I mean, you've taken the
we are
risk for
discussing
the
it.
last 4 years. Do it again. Doesn't seem like a very big risk.
Let me just say you asked if we wanted to put both. The committee always has the option of putting both in and saying you'll reduce the number between now and March if you need to. So I'm just going to say that.
Well, you could put the extra 9,000 in. Vote the extra 9,000. And that way you don't have to decide tonight.
Well, actually, I really need a decision tonight because the kids do course selection, like, right now, by the end of this month, and so they need to know what their graduation requirements are. So they absolutely do need to know that this week. So that we need to decide this. I don't think people are gonna feel any differently, but we absolutely need to be able to tell the high school this week whether that's why we have an agenda item, whether they're going to include the credits for that physical education requirement or not, so that the program of studies can be completed and that the high school can move forward with the kids in the course selection.
Well, thank you.
No, thank you for
Appreciate it.
your,
Good points, Larry. I think we agree.
for your input. Thank you very much, yes.
Don't disagree with anything.
Okay, is there any more discussion about this? Okay, so seeing none. All those in favor, let's just get back maybe to the original motion.
Would you like to hear what that was?
Yes, please,
Okay,
just.
so, approve the budget as presented at $30,508,585, which includes one full-time wellness teacher at Foxborough High School.
Okay, all those in favor? 4 in favor, those against? 1, okay. Passes, thank you. It was, definitely. I think I'm glad everyone had a chance to voice their opinion.
Oh, that was good. My other ribs banged this week in the paper.
We're gonna move on to discussion
I don't
and
think so.
approval. I'm sorry? Did I miss something?
I think that it's just people are just sort of feeling it. Let me just say, in comments to the committee, that was a tough decision between good for kids and good for kids.
Yeah.
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 So.
Thank you, Debbie, that's a good point. Okay, discussion approval of 2014-2015 capital improvement plan, Ms. Spinelli.
Yes, we presented the preliminary CIP to you at the last meeting, just to give you a heads up on a few things that, especially one thing that was a little bit new that Bill spoke about, so I'll turn it over to Bill, and any questions over to him as well.
Since the last meeting, we've actually had a number of meetings with our network consultant. As I told you, we're trying to wrap a number of things together, including what we'll do on the town school side as far as increasing our throughput requirements for the network. So that number has been firmed up, so the network number now that we're carrying is $156,938. The reason it's larger than it was originally was that in order to make this whole move work, and because of the uncertainty with Town Hall, the decision has been pretty much made between Randy and Paul and I that we will actually move the core of the network to the high school. So there's a little bit of extra cost in doing that, and there's a little bit of extra gear in doing that. Once we've done that, though, we've then set ourselves up for how we can change the entire district and the entire town, in effect. So that's why there's an increase there. We do have a quota already on that. We're able to get that, a little bit more finalized. The second one that we really didn't have a number for last time, and I apologize, this is still somewhat of an estimate because we're waiting for a third party to do a full analysis, but I think we can live with this number at this point to move forward with, and that is that the tech department here at the high school, which is really equipment oriented, it's really your kind of for the kids that really want to get into the trades. It's the one opportunity that we offer within the school. As I said to you, much of the equipment is old, but the concern I have, and I believe the teachers and administration here share with me, is that there's a lot of just basic repairs that need to be made to these to make them safer. There's a number of components that need to be redone and rebuilt. One of them is as simple as the dust collecting device is so old that it really isn't working the way it's supposed to, which can create safety issues. We don't think that the equipment needs to be replaced. We think we have some while it's old, it's extremely well built, but we believe we need to almost do an overhaul on some of it. So we've put in a placeholder of about $28,000. As you know, the threshold on capital is $25,000. I'd love to be able to come back at a later date and say it's a lot less, but until I have that third party, this is the best estimate I can give you on it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments about this?
I have one question.
Yep.
Just following up on the discussion last time, Bill, were you able to give any thought to whether there would be any way to increase that 4-year timeline Steve and I were talking about last time?
Well, I think in the discussion with both Randy and and Paul and FTG, which is the group that we've been working with to do some of this, that's why we kind of upped this first number. Because again, until we make this whole shift and get the first side of it done, it's not like you can just jump into the next one. And the next one would be, in other words, we'd have to jump almost to 300,000. We know the resources aren't there in this 1 year. So even though we're asking for more than what we originally hoped for, it's enough to get the primary things done so that when we're ready to go and ask for the next thing, we could possibly drop it down into 3 years instead of 4 by doing it this way. Okay. So that's a kind of our hope in this process. And we know that this is the heaviest expense in moving the core and stuff. So
thank you.
Okay.
That was a good suggestion, to collapse it, even just to go from 4 to 3. That was
Well, I
really
appreciate
good.
the creativity and laying out a plan how we might possibly get there. I don't know what you...
Yeah, no, that's great, yep.
It's really
All right,
helpful.
so we need a motion to accept?
Motion to approve the FY15 CIP request.
Yes.
And that final figure is?
it's $593,688. We're not technically asking for the 275 at this point because there's, we're using that like we did last year, which basically we're letting the CIP committee acknowledge that it is a potential that's going to hit us so that they can talk about it now and not be a surprise if we were to bring it back in the fall if something were to happen.
I'll make the motion if we could capture in the notes that Bruce and I are pleased, as hopefully the rest of the committee is, accelerating as quickly and as prudently as we
Absolutely,
can this project that we accepted as proposed this evening.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Thank you. Okay. Let's move on to Bi-County Collaborative, quarterly update.
Yes. This is a new regulation that is associated with special education collaboratives in Massachusetts. So I'm sure if you read the paper over the last couple of years, there's been more scrutiny on educational collaboratives in the state of Massachusetts, and more regulatory guidance has emerged as a result, related to budget, related to finances, related to information coming back to member districts, and this falls in the latter category. So there's a new regulation regarding special education collaboratives in the state of Massachusetts that require that member superintendents, such as myself, provide quarterly report updates to their school committees at an open meeting. Quarterly updates should include information about programs and services offered by the collaboratives, as well as any significant changes in program services budgets or property as they arise. So we are a member of the BICO, Bi-County Collaborative, which has its offices in Franklin. And so this will be a new quarterly update starting now that I will bring, and the board, which is the sitting superintendents and the member districts, decided that in the interest of us sharing what is really most important at the collaborative, any changes or programs, that rather than each of us going to our monthly meetings and trying to figure out what you'd like to be updated on, that we agreed that the collaborative director, who's only Dr. Grubert, who's our special education director, would create quarterly updates focusing on the programs and service improvements or updates, and that we would all provide the same one for the purposes of continuity in the member districts. So this is the quarterly update from BICO that you had the opportunity to read in your packet, dated January 8, 2014. We currently have 4 students attending BICO collaborative programs. 4. So 4 out of our 22 out-of-district students are in BICO classrooms.
Only 4.
Only 4. Because we have wonderful programs and services here.
And there are actually 22 programs in 9 member school districts.
Yes, and
A
they
total of
have 179 students
Okay.
from the member districts, and 4 of them are ours.
Okay.
There's also a good thing there about FICO also being 30% more cost-effective than other ways of doing it.
That's
Second
when you
page.
compare it to private special education
yeah,
schools.
right.
Yes, that
Yeah.
obviously if you can run a classroom for a low incidence need, let's say, that we can run locally, and the transportation costs are a little bit less as well, and Bill and the other school business administrators work on transportation cost sharing as well.
So there's a prudence to that. That's,
yes.
Thank you.
It also tends to keep the children within the district,
Right.
in the neighboring district towns, instead of being further away, so
Right.
it makes it, a little bit more palatable, I think, for some parents, if you're able to provide the same level of service.
Any other comments about that update? So we'll be expecting this quarterly? This
You
will be
will.
okay?
That's right.
All right. Thank you for that information. That's important to. Okay, we're going to move on to the 2014 district report card.
Yes, I'm going to turn this over to Amy, but as you know, last year was our first ever district report card in January. So
And it
this
was
is
well
an
received.
annual event. So it's been Amy's special project, so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Burrows.
Right, this was our way of promoting Foxborough Public Schools and really communicate what's taking place to all stakeholders that are out there. So last year, as we said, that was the first one. So what we wanted to do this year was to really highlight what's different. Some of the things that are the consistent pieces are some of our statistics like our SAT, our AP data, our MCAS data. But just to really call out some of the things that are different. The first page is the same because that is still our mission and our vision, and really highlighting who the people are within each of our schools, as well as all of you here. But when we turn to the next page, the district overview, the enrollment, the MCAS information is the information that we reported on in the fall through the baseline and benchmarks report. So you've seen that data before. The technology highlights, something that's here that we've obviously been talking about here tonight, is that now that the high school is 100% wireless. So that's a big change from last year. And then with 7th and 8th grade being wireless at the middle school, that has increased the number of access points, obviously, by many. And if you turn to the next page, that's really where you're going to see many of the changes that
We
are
just,
here.
back, the page you were just on, our demographics haven't changed that much. So our free and reduced lunch eligibility is about the same as last year, and our special education population is about the same as last year. So our demographic profile is very similar to where we were last year.
Which that was on the baseline and benchmarks report as well. So when we're looking at the SAT information, again, this was reported in the fall, but we saw some nice increases there with 10 to 21 point jumps in all three of those areas.
That's remarkable.
This past
I think
year.
that's-
And we increased the number of students by 1% as well that took the SAT from 93 to 94% here at the high school from last year.
Can I jump and just go to the one above that? This one, we actually paused and I said, oh, are we sure? Let's call guidance to make sure. From the class of 2013, 94% of Foxborough High School students have pursued continuing education. That is the highest we've ever had. Our highest previous to this was 92. So that is a data point that if you haven't been tracking it year to year, that for us is a really good number, because that does not that does not count students going into the military, of which there are several, and it doesn't count students going into the workplace or trade program. So that's the highest we've ever had, is 94%.
And can I just add to that, if I may? I know we're limited in space, and we do everything we can to keep this rich with information, but to a manageable. But I think that kind of comment, if we could fit it, would make this that much more meaningful.
Yeah, this is the highest percentage.
And that was the one thing I looked for, Amy, as a parent, and I think other parents will too, or other stakeholders. I think they'll look at what's new or what's different. The fact you called out the technology and the wireless, I don't know if we want to put an arrow to that, or a color, or a...
I think that's a really good point. I was kind of looking for the same thing.
And
We
then-
want to compare it.
And then
you know,
Deb's
contrast.
comment, I think, is very appropriate, you know, and we won't put that on next year if it's not the case, but the fact that that's a highlight in this report card, I think should be called out.
And then if you look right across from there on the Did You Know section, that, if you look at the highest graduation right here, where we were in the top 5 for the
I know.
state, and
I love
with
the Did You Know column.
99%.
Yeah, I like that too.
As far as the advanced placement courses, we had 2 additional ones that you had approved and we have in place with the AP Physics and the AP Psychology now, so really increasing those opportunities. So those were new. But to your point, it really, you can't see that they're new.
Even if you would just put new
Yes.
in parentheses, I would,
Yes, because that's what I wrote.
I think something else.
wrote new
yeah.
and put a star next to the new.
Yeah, I love the
because
Did
it's
You Know.
remarkable, you know, the stuff that we're adding with the support of the community, and, well, enough said.
And just with the AP courses, there's a lot of planning and work on behalf of teachers and being trained in order to teach those new curriculums.
Yeah, we
I
could,
like it.
that's
I
a
think
good
it's
idea.
great.
Even just after the 2 new AP courses, to put after, like, new exclamation point, like in italics.
Right.
Great.
The opportunities for other types of enrichment in addition to the AP courses, we've talked about even with, you know, Debbie's goals and increasing those opportunities for challenge and academic advancement. Over the past year, there was an increase of 37%. So already so many different opportunities for our kids, but to increase it from the you know, great number that were there, that's a really high percentage.
It is.
And then the wireless access here is noted again, and then the bring your own device. And as far as the middle school in grade 8 and then the high school. Our Scholastic Art Awards, we increased with the highest number there that we've had with 22 this past year. And then with having our students that we had, here's a teaching and learning highlight that won first place in the construction career day. That was a really, really nice award for that project challenge. And then obviously the expanded complex here on our campus with the turf field and expanding the baseball and softball fields.
I think it looks great. Anybody else have any other comments or suggestions for
No,
improvement?
I think this looks fantastic, and I was on the strategic planning task force back when we conceived of this idea, and I think, I said it last year, I think it's exactly what we were thinking, put into a tangible form, so thank you for all your work on it. I think it's the snapshot we were hoping to send out to our community, so, thank you.
I have two smaller questions that we've been wondering about. The first time we did it, we had it as like a single year, like 2012, and then finished up the data by December. But which do you think it would be better to put the school years we have here, or just date it January 2014? Because this implies school year, and people might not remember they got it in January.
I like January.
And this
yeah.
data isn't June of 2014, where this might imply it is. So we went back and forth with single year versus month and year versus school year.
Because the data's that's why you see 2013 on the second
Right.
page, because that data is our 2013 data.
So maybe we should.
I think we should date it when we're
January-
issuing it.
January of
Which would be January.
2014.
Yes, that's my opinion.
I don't have a strong.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other question is, last year we mailed it to every mailing address in Foxborough, including business and residents. Is that still the desire of the committee?
I think so, definitely.
And when would we do that?
Last year we did it
In
right
January.
after you approved it.
So it'll go out again.
In the same format we had with the fold, the cover letter, and then the I think as you recommended, a fold out.
Yes, I like that.
Right.
Okay.
Amy, was this a lot of work? I'm sure the first one was. Was this one as much? Hopefully not.
So we learn a lot about formatting. Making things, to your
Desktop
point,
publisher?
vet.
Layout?
No, it's hard, but there's so many great things that are taking place.
Yeah.
And in order, you can't put it all here. So in order to try to get a flavor of things that are within the arts, that are the academics, that are within areas that people might not realize with the construction awards that we have, we're really trying to tap into different areas. And there's so much more that you want to put here,
There were other things,
but
but
the
you know, you
room
can only make it so.
does make it challenging.
Well,
And
thank
then,
you.
I love
then
the
the
way
big
it's laid
question is,
out.
are we missing anything? Is there something
for
here
sure,
that,
but-
Yeah.
that we're missing?
Okay, so you need a motion for us to accept this, and then you will send it out to the community. Do we have a motion to accept the 2014 district report card?
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? 5-0, thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy, for all your work on that.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you for receiving our input as well. Please
How
say
you're
it was
coming
okay.
along is about the most I thought, other than what do you think's more important, this data point or that data point? Other than that, it was pretty much, how are you coming along?
Okay,
Really a lot of work, thank
I
you.
know. Approval of 2014, 2015 school calendar, Ms. Spinelli.
Yes, you had this before you at the beginning of the month, and wanted to think about the proposal we received from our educators, which as administrators we did support, to have all of the parent conferences Monday and Tuesday prior to Thanksgiving, which is before we used to do the elementary the week ahead and secondary that week. And this was an idea they wanted to try, but it's a new idea, so we postponed the approval of the calendar so that you could think more about that, so.
All right, wait to see if members of the committee received any feedback. I did not, but I don't know if others
I
did.
actively sought feedback from my parent
Okay.
friends, and I found a lot of support within the community for this change, and
Okay, great.
you know, also from parents who have students in all levels of our schools. So, so I'm all for it. I
So they don't mind running building to building? and-
not the people I spoke with, and I do think, I said at our last meeting, I think our staff is very cooperative too when people have conflicts and really want what's best for the student, and will, you know, take measures to accommodate parents who can't make it from building to building if they have, you know, 4 or 5 kids, just can't do it. So, but the parents I spoke with were, you know, really thought it was a good change to our calendar. I'm assuming the teachers union was on.
It was their idea.
So,
They came to us with the idea, like they had talked among, representatives from all the buildings, and they pulled together, and they all thought it was a good idea, and they actually brought it to the table. Amy and I, we meet with them twice a month, and we thought, gee, that does have some merit. So, and then we discussed it as an administrative team and thought it had a lot of merit, so.
And then there
Ground
was-
up idea.
There is still the plan to have that open house again at the high school like we did.
Yes.
I mean, that
Yes, that will
helps.
be an annual event now.
Very good.
All right, great.
Motion to approve.
To accept.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Great.
No?
I'll second Steve's
Okay.
motion to,
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all
Thank
those in
you,
favor
Mr. Gardner.
of the 2014-2015 school calendar as presented this evening?
Aye.
Okay, 5. Bev?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh, I
5.
had my hand
Okay,
up.
thank you, 5-0. Thank you.
you.
All right, discussion and approval of proposed increase in high school physical education requirement.
Yes, so this is
4 years.
related to your previous
Right.
budget vote, that if you took a vote of the budget to include the wellness teacher to meet the 4-year physical education requirement, then you have a memo from Principal Myers-Pacla explaining that if you agree with that budget position, then that means at the same time, in parallel, that you have to reconsider the PE requirement. So you have a memo from her that says, should you vote to increase the PE requirement from 2 to 4 years, which in effect you're doing if you approve the position and the program of studies, this will take effect with the class of 2017. We will also need to increase our overall yearly academic credit requirement. So an increase in the requirement for an additional 2 years of PE will mean an increase in the number of credits for students from 6.5 to 6.75 each year, because junior and senior will be a quarter course, beginning with the class of 2017.
Okay, so do we have a motion to increase the yearly academic credit requirement as?
I'll make that motion.
well, I think we need 2 motions. Don't we have to vote to increase the PE requirement and then vote to increase it, the
Good
academic
point.
requirement?
That would be very wise, I think, to
Okay,
take it in
overall.
2 steps.
Okay.
I think we should.
That's a good idea.
Okay, go ahead, whoever wants to make the motion then.
I'll make the motion to increase.
The
The
request for
physical-
1.0 increase in physical
Right.
education.
I think it's
Oh,
that
I'm
first
sorry.
sentence.
I'm sorry.
I think, if I clarify, your vote is to increase the PE requirement from 2 years to 4 years.
Yeah,
Right.
Yes, thank you.
I'll second that motion.
and can I just ask for a moment of discussion before we vote? on it?
Certainly.
So, gonna go back to Steve and Larry's thought process now that it's too late, but, is there any credence to, okay, we're complying with the law, so we're offering it for 4 years, but for students who are highly active in sports or whatever, that there would be an option for them to potentially take another instructional academic elective or something?
Yes, I think that actually is part of it.
In which case,
Sorry.
would we not approve the requirement to have PE for 4 years? I'm getting a lot of blank stares.
But
No,
the-
no,
Might not
but
make
Would
this-
sense.
we
the
need an
law-
exception
is that the
clause? Is
law?
that what you
But
get
yes.
that? Like, or
Yes.
some
But-
kind
but
of,
We need an exception clause.
yeah.
Now, hold on. I think
But why
that,
would we do that if the law states that there needs to be?
Well,
I think the law has an exception, if I'm not mistaken, on
What?
if they're in an active sport.
Didn't they say we documented things like that, like if people were at like a private gymnasium or private extracurricular activities, that's documented? I
well,
could be
I'm
wrong. I
not,
thought
you know
that
what,
was
I have
mentioned
to,
at the
I have
last
to say
meeting.
I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to say I'm not sure. I
Can we
think
wait
there's
on the vote?
something to that, but I'm not sure. Because I'm trying to think on my feet, but I'm not sure it matters for tonight, because if you vote to increase the requirement from 2 to 4 years, then I can come back to you and say, this is how kids can meet that requirement. And whether it is that they have to take the half-year elective every other day, or whether there are other ways
That's
to meet that
documented
requirement,
sports.
I'll let you know. So I don't think by taking the vote tonight, you're
Mhm.
preventing that from happening. Is that helpful?
yes.
If we put the vote off, does that impede any progress on students selecting?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we're at
And
the
printing of-
same condition, okay, all right.
Well, the whole point was to approve the 1.0 FTE because we were going to have an increase in students to
Because your
support
intention
that.
was to do that.
So I think if we don't do that, then
Well, here's what I'm thinking, Katie.
Yeah.
This wasn't premeditated, but I think the way I would answer your question is, we've now complied with the statute by having the ability to provide that.
Okay, by the additional of the FTE.
Which we wouldn't
Yes.
be able to.
Right.
But now that we've provided that, is there a way that if our staff said this child should be worthy of an exception because we know, for whatever rationale, that would allow them to do another academic elective, which are so
Well,
tough to get, that was my thing.
I think Janelle said when they were here on the 6th that, kids could come in before school and take a yoga class or use the wellness center, that there were different means to meet the requirement so that they could take, another academic elective. I'm
that's
pretty
right. I
sure
remember that.
she
You're right.
said they can structure their schedules such that.
But they're still having to take a class,
during a
though,
Directed study.
which is they still would have to come in early.
To meet the phys ed requirement,
Right.
they could come in but the reason we needed as I understood it, the reason we needed the full-time person was to help meet this time requirement, because somebody has to be in the wellness center,
Right.
somebody has to be running the early morning Pilates
Right,
class.
but I
or
think
whatever.
that would give us the flexibility.
Right, and
To do that,
right.
so that
Yes.
it wouldn't impede somebody who doesn't want to use that space in their schedule.
Right.
But, Amy just called up, I don't know, I don't think this is gonna be, anyway. Massachusetts mandates physical education grades K to 12, but does not require daily recess. State requires high schools to provide students with physical education. Compliance is monitored through court-employee review. That's conducted with all school districts on a rotating basis. They say every 6 years, but it's usually 5. A school that does not require physical education in every grade is required to develop corrective action plans, which is what I was referring to before. The state law does not specify the number of physical education credits required for graduation. So that's why we can just offer it as a quarter course and not a full course, a full year. So I would say we're offering it and requiring it, but the minimal acceptable. The state permits school districts, this was quick. The state permits school district, now this is only a website on state profiles, permits school districts or schools to allow students to substitute other activities for the required physical education credit. Local school officials have discretion to determine whether and how a student, particularly at the high school level, may meet the physical education requirement through an organized program of instructed physical activity.
So that
So I would say
That sounds like the loophole.
you can go ahead and more comfortably, perhaps, feel that voting to increase the PE requirement for 2 to 4 years, effective with the class of 2017, and I can hear informally you're encouraging us that if students are in a instructive physical activity such as an athletic team, et cetera, that you would encourage us to be flexible about how we, within the law, we're able to have students meet it.
Right.
I would go as far as to, I don't remember who made the initial motion.
Bev.
Bev? I don't know if you would consider a friendly amendment, but I would almost put that right into the motion, that we approve 2-year to 4-year with the caveat that we would ask the administration to identify that procedure, or however the right way is to
Of
word
course,
it.
it's
What
not
is-
something that should go in
Clarify.
our policy handbook. I don't know that that's something we would put in a motion here at this table.
I think personally, I think it's getting a little muddy.
Yeah.
I think we need to be clear. Are we saying that,
It is
our
muddy,
students-
that's the problem.
Well, you're increasing the PE requirement from 2 years to 4 years, because
Right.
that's what the law says. If I promise that we will treat it as flexibly as we can under the law, then I think that's what your directive to me is. I don't know if you need to put it in the formal motion.
I have no reason to think that you wouldn't live up to a promise, but I'm just trying to be clear. But it's not my motion, it's Bevy's. But I appreciate the discussion, and I think we've gotten to what I was looking for.
Well, the athletic director has already said that they, the willingness to, under supervision and permission, that they can do not a formalized gym class during the day, but Pilates or yoga before school or whenever.
That's still formalized and instructed. So
Yeah.
I think there's two things. The vote to increase the PE requirement is one thing. how students meet that requirement is another.
Okay.
So I'm
Very
trying
good.
to not mix the
That's
Right.
fair.
the ingredients
So that's-
right now.
that's
Good.
fair,
That's
but,
good. So your motion's fine.
okay.
Can we have a?
Does anybody want it read?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Approve the high school PE requirement increase from 2 years to 4 years.
Right, because that's what the law stated. Correct, Debbie?
Yes.
And that's what we agreed upon with the budget, so yes, okay.
But if we added Bruce's suggested friendly amendment, it's harmless,
Tina
but it gets it on record,
But I think we need to separate the two.
isn't it? I'm actually asking.
I
Well,
think
the
we need to
reason it
separate.
isn't is because we need to research, this is how I feel, that we need
Okay.
to research what are the different ways students will be able to meet that requirement.
Okay.
And to try to formalize in language other ways for them to meet requirement other than taking this course, and that you might be voting on something that we are not
Enforce.
clear on right now. And so I think the day-to-day, operations of how we carry this out, that we can come back to you with an update about.
That's fine.
But I think your role is to increase the requirement, and then we can come back and tell you, here are the bunch of ways that kids can do that.
I'm fine.
For example, we increased the math requirement from 3 to 4 years, and we didn't, try to dictate how
Good point,
students
Tina.
will fulfill that math requirement.
Yes.
It'll be laid out in the program of
Yeah.
studies, they'll
Yes.
have their choices, but we didn't amend our motion to say, X, Y, Z.
How they're going to
how
do
they're
it.
gonna
That's
do
right.
it. So I
Process
see this as the
versus-
same,
yes, I think
same
that's a great point.
situation.
Okay.
Okay, so, the
So do I have
motion
a
being
motion?
increase it from 2 to 4 years.
Vote to increase
school
the
PE.
high school PE requirement. I'm gonna read it exactly as Diane has in the memo. Vote to increase the high school, I just inserted, for Janet, for your purposes, the word high school, words high school. Vote to increase the high school PE requirement from 2 to 4 years, effective with the class of 2017, to take effect with the class.
Okay, we had a
To
first.
take effect with the class of
2014,
17.
Either to take effect or effective, you pick the one you like the best.
And, Bev, you made the motion?
I did.
And did someone second it?
Tina did.
That I did.
Okay,
She did.
any further
Okay.
discussion?
I'm sorry for just 2014 or 2017?
17.
I see the 17 about the credits.
Did I say four?
No,
No,
2017.
17.
It's
It'll be
17.
effective with the class of 2017.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, so any further discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. Okay. Now,
Part two.
part 2.
Accordingly, that will increase the requirement. The additional 2 years of physical education increases the requirement in the number of credits for students. And if you remember, Mrs. Myers-Pacla at the last meeting said that our requirement currently 6.5, that the typical student earns more than 6.5 credits, so this is not an unattainable goal. But to acknowledge that the quarter course that will now occur in junior and senior year, that you will vote to increase the requirement. You will vote to increase the number of credits for students from 6.5 to 6.75 each year, beginning with the class of 2017.
And just for clarification, the law does not dictate the number of credits, how each district will implement this.
That's correct.
We are choosing with the change from 6.5 to 6.75.
Yes.
Okay, so we have that. Do we have a motion?
So
Somebody
moved.
want, okay, Bruce is moving the motion. That was yes?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay, great. And then you will come back to us, Deb, at a later date
Yes.
to provide us with feedback about how we can meet that requirement
I
with
will.
other students.
Yeah,
Okay.
so if I understood it right, and I understand we need to do more exploration, but if I understood it right, if someone's participating in a sports team, that could count towards their credit.
I believe that it can.
The way that, if that source you just read was.
Right. And I
Sounds
believe that I've heard that it can.
Yeah.
So that's the safest I feel. I think they can, and I believe that I've heard before that it can, but I would want to be definitive about it and come back to you with an update.
You know, at the risk of sounding, or offering an opinion, I would think that'd be appropriate, that if a student is out exercising and participating and getting, but if a student is not, then we want to be sure that they are having the opportunity for wellness, so therefore they go through some kind of different program.
That's right. And a season of a sport is at least a quarter course. So that's why I believe that that's true, but I don't want to say 100% without
Okay.
researching it. And I'm going to have them contact other high schools and make sure that other people are doing this in practice and that it is indeed passed the test.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to the Racino mitigation, surrounding community agreement. So as committee remembers, at our last meeting, we had the agreement which was distributed to us. We made the decision to put it on the agenda for this evening to talk about the agreement, and from that discussion, to decide how the committee, or if the committee, wants to do anything about this agreement. This obviously was brought up. Steve, I know you've brought this to the attention of the committee about the Racino agreement and your concerns about the mitigation for schools in the agreement. So I want to just open that up to the committee so we can have a discussion about this and move from there. One thing I do want to just provide the committee with is that I did talk to the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Mark Sullivan, that this was a committee that met for over a year, that looked at all the different facets of the potential impact this could potentially have, and that this is an agreement. This is a signed agreement. So this is something to keep in mind in terms of, as we have a discussion tonight, and if we have thoughts about what we may or may not, how we may want to respond to this, with members who did look into the potential impact, the numbers that are cited by the agreement, in the agreement here. There is a, I'm sorry for, trying to think of the word, okay, trying to think of the word, the 250,000 that is.
Mitigation. Escrow?
Thank you very much, yeah, in escrow, right now set aside for any potential mitigation. My understanding is that if it was determined that there would be a greater financial impact, that the town could go back and renegotiate that. If at some time it was determined, let's say the number of students coming into the district were greater, and we're gonna have more of an impact on the services in the school district. So that is my understanding.
Okay.
So I just wanted to put that out there and open it up to the committee to discuss further. And I know we do have a lawyer on we're lucky to have one. Not to put you on the spot, Tina, but you are more well-versed on reading documents, legal documents.
I did read the surrounding community agreement. I think, it's clearly a signed agreement. I think it protects us, our schools, in the event that we can prove any measurable damages within the terms of this agreement. It provides a means of recouping those damages, but it would be up to our business administrator to try to track any impact on the schools in enrollment or through our guidance, our guidance departments, if we have any measurable
increase in services? Mhm.
Yes, thank you. That comes, but I think at this time, this agreement protects us as best as we can from an uncertain future. Right now, we can't really say what is going to occur down the road. Steve?
I'm listening. Everybody said it. I've looked at it, so.
Yeah, the agreement covers the school department, so I don't see what we can add at this time.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I applaud Steve, who's taken a little bit of flack in the press, not our local press, elsewhere.
Oh, yeah, and an editorial.
Steve, I applaud you as a new member of the committee bringing passion and interest of Foxborough kids to light at this table. I don't have any issue with that at all. I don't think any of us do. And I think, as our superintendent said when she first got the first phone call about this issue, we weren't involved in the discussion, and it's hard for us to agree or disagree to any points made on behalf of the schools. So, to me, the key point out of this is, we would like a voice or a seat at the table, or it would have been nice to have an opportunity to weigh in since this had a school flavor to it. Having said that, I don't think anyone did anything intentional to slight us. That's my perspective.
Agreed, and I
So-
never implied that
No, you
or
didn't.
said that.
No, you didn't.
Right.
No, I'm just offering, so from my perspective, it would have been great if we'd been invited into the process. I'm okay with the mitigation that's been agreed to. But to me, those are the lessons out of it, Great to have passion for our kids. Would have been nice to be a party to the table. The agreement is signed, as Tina points out, Katie points out. So I'm okay with where we are today, and it's something we'll keep a close eye on. That's my personal perspective.
Do you want to weigh in, Bev?
Yeah, number one, I do not think that this was a school committee purview to start with. And now that it is a legally signed document that already protects the schools, I think it would be egregious faux pas if the school committee even thought about trying to supersede a legal document. I mean, I don't even know if it's legal, but I would consider that immoral. I don't think we should try to supersede the governing board of the town. And it clearly protects the schools already, so
So you're good with
I think it's a dead issue. I don't think we have to demand a cease and desist order for anything. It's a done deal. And it protects the school children. I mean, as far as we can look into the unknown.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Do you want to?
No, I've said my piece, and I think I want to thank you, Katie. The core of my concern was that we acknowledged that this language was out there, that this document was signed, and that there was communication between this board and any other stakeholding boards in town. And I want to make it very clear that over the last few weeks when I was talking about this, I hope I was successful in the sanctity of what I thought the superintendent's job was. I didn't think that it was fair that, or I thought it was awkward that it got dropped on your desk and that we had to
It didn't, though.
recognize it, okay?
I
And so-
don't feel it did.
No, but I just want to say this publicly, Debbie, that I said many times in this meeting that it was a matter of the board, because I have the highest confidence in you and your staff in this, and
But we didn't, I just want to be clear, because this is a public, we didn't have anything to do with this Racino agreement.
I know we didn't.
We didn't.
I know we didn't.
I wasn't asked to weigh in, I did not
I know
participate.
you weren't.
And I'm just want to make that really clear that,
You were not.
No?
And we weren't either. And I just wanted to make sure that if this board had a consensus of any thoughts, comments, or concerns, that they were out and that they were discussed. And it was all in the focus of looking out for the best interest of everything under the umbrella here, in the best interest of our students and the employees that work in our school district and everybody else that's affected by it. That's it. So thank you, Katie, for reaching out to the Board of Selectmen, and for John Gray for what part he had. And if the consensus of the board is to do, is to stay where it is, then there's a bow on the box, and I think it's in the rearview mirror.
Katie, I think we should also take a moment, I'm sure Steve would agree, to thank the members of the Racino Committee for all of their work.
Yes.
You know, I know there were several parents on the committee with
Yeah,
students in
sure.
our schools, so they have a vested interest in this. And I know it was a very good cross-section of the community, the people who served on it. There were some people who were originally appointed who left, and then other members came on. But they spent over a year looking at this issue and really put a lot of thought and time and energy and effort into it. And I think they, you know, did some good work on behalf of our communities.
Tina, thank you.
I
for-
agree with that.
Yeah, I agree, and I want to thank you for bringing that up. I think you're right, it is a consensus in terms of our discussion about this, and just, you know, I feel comfortable, just because I don't think I really articulated it, but I feel comfortable with the agreement as is. And I appreciate everybody taking the time, and, you know, this is what we do. We bring up issues, we talk about them, we process it, and I think the consensus is that this is an agreement, and we're all comfortable, well, the consensus, the majority is comfortable with it, and I think, you know, we're going to lay that to rest at this time, if everybody's in agreement. Okay, so thank you. And we're going to move on to other matters.
We have a few happy other matters, but I have a most important other matter. Our February meeting is next week due to the nature of this calendar. So, as we discussed last year, when this happens back to back, and because of the vacation week, that's the way the calendar falls. So I need to ask the committee if you feel you need next week's meeting. We really don't have agenda items that are, you know, pressing. And since we just had a big meeting about our budget, sometimes we don't need one a week ahead, the very next week, if it doesn't have to be separated, which it isn't, so.
Well, Debbie, if you feel that there aren't any other pending issues for next week, I would recommend to the committee that we don't have the meeting for next week unless anybody has. And then our next scheduled meeting would be February 24th?
Yes.
So is there do we need to make a motion to suspend, so could I postpone, could I motion that we not meet next week as we've already met this week and continue on our regular schedule after that?
Yes. Okay.
That's my motion.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Janet, do you have that motion? I don't know.
Kind of missed the beginning of it, but
I
okay.
think Steve moved to cancel next
Yeah,
week.
thank you.
Yes, that's kind of what I was gonna do.
And I seconded that.
Cancel school committee meetings.
Thank you. Tina, I love it. Thank you. Okay, awesome. Okay.
Like
Good headline for the newspaper.
All in favor?
Any further discussion? Hold on, any further discussion? Wait a minute, Tina, I'm sorry, but I still do have to say, I'm the one actually who moves us to the.
We're ready.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, 5-0, okay.
I'm glad I remember, because otherwise,
Yes.
I'd be polling you during the week.
Okay.
I want to commend Amy and her team. This past Friday was our professional development day, and it was a wonderful, all our teachers were engaged in really wonderful professional collaboration, and this is the day that we typically have them focus on what's most important for their work and their content area, and I mean, I made it around to almost everything, and it was a great day. I especially want to point out that we offered our first ever training for substitute teachers, or as we sometimes call them, our guest
Awesome.
teachers.
Awesome.
And that focused on the principals. I welcomed the substitute teaching staff. The principals went over school safety procedures, lockdown drills, what happens, what's expected of them. Then the remainder of the morning, our Foxborough Public School nurses, I want to thank them personally, did a 2-hour session on responding to student needs. So it included health, safety, all aspects of what they would need to do. And in the afternoon, they were trained on the Darkness to Light, Adults Protecting Children from Sexual Abuse, the district-wide training we have been engaged in. So one of our elementary counselors, Amy Muldowney, provided that training. And with that, and our central office staff was actually present as well. So with that, the only group we have left, which Amy and Caitlin have been planning for, is the coaches. So we will have trained everyone in the Foxborough Public Schools.
Awesome.
So that was a great day for them. They were thrilled to be there. And it was a conversation I was having with one of the substitute, or as he likes to be called, guest teachers. And he said, you know, and we've talked about professional development. He said, you know, it would be good if you did professional development for us. And of all of our long conversational topics that we had that day, which was long, I would say, that's the one thing I said, you know, I can do that, we can do that. And we did. So a month later, we did it. So we hope that's the first annual. And I know it was a little bit more for Amy and her team to put together, but it was really a great day for them.
I was really excited when I saw this because we have some great substitute teachers, but we really have a core group in town who, they teach a lot. I mean, I don't know, what they average a week, but you see them all the time, and I think this is fabulous. I really love that they're being trained on school safety and responding to student needs, and the darkness to light training. I'm very proud of the fact that
And it
really
also,
helm
it
on
makes them feel a whole part of the team, too.
And they're a very important component of the
Yes.
team. So I'm glad we're able to do it, and we look
think
forward
it's-
to hopefully doing it each year.
I think I would really love to see it each year. I think that's awesome.
So I know you have, we're going to talk about parent teaching, I would imagine.
Just before you leave last week, some of the kids want to thank you for the snow day.
Oh, do they?
And the extra short week that they had.
They're in, they're out. That's how I'm describing January.
Yeah.
They're in, they're out.
They're in there,
Yes, I'm glad they so enjoyed their day. I hope all the parents did too.
How many school days did we have last week?
Two.
Yeah.
They were in, they were out, they were in, they were out.
We should note that next year's calendar doesn't have Martin Luther King Day and the professional development in the same week. They're two separate weeks.
And where are the snowstorms placed? Do we know?
Yeah, I don't know that. I'll let you know when
Okay,
I get
good.
that information.
Amy, do you have?
The other matter that I had is our Parent Technology Night that is going to take place. It's upcoming on February the 5th, which is a Wednesday night here at the high school. And this is our third annual Parent Technology Night, and it's really showing 21st century skills in action. It's not about the technology. Technology is a tool, and how we're really promoting those 21st century skills, and how our students, many of them, that's all they know is the 21st century, quite honestly. But the other piece to this is we're doing a little bit different this year, and that we want to bring the students' perspective. And so there, for a number, more than 50% of the sessions, students will be presenting with their teachers and really talking about their perspective of how technology is impacting their learning in the classroom. And then some of the sessions that are repeats from last year or even the year before, the session's different. Just as technology changes, teachers are constantly reflecting on how they're using that within the classroom. So if a parent has been to a session in the past, don't think, I don't need to go to that one, you still can. But the registration link is right on the main page of our website. It was sent out through the listservs through each of the schools, and actually a hard copy of the flyer will go home with students tomorrow, just to make sure that everyone's able to see it. Know that through email, a lot of information goes out that way. We want to make sure that everyone is able to access the registration link and sign up ahead of time for those sessions, and we hope that many will join us. Babysitting will be provided by the National Honor Society that evening, and a lot of
Maybe we could get a
preliminary.
mention in the Foxborough Reporter and/or the Patch.
That would be great.
I can tell you that the online
What do you
registration
think,
is very
audience?
easy and works just fantastic.
There
I already
already was a
registered.
very nice,
Great.
there was
Oh.
a very nice blurb with a little colored photo in last week's Foxborough Reporter about Tech Night.
Yes.
Already.
Yes, there was.
That's great.
I look forward to
good
getting
night.
the feedback from you after that night. So next Wednesday, February 5th. Great. Thank you. Anybody else have anything under other matters? Bev?
I do. Cable Access, Foxborough Cable Access had its annual meeting last Saturday night and Volunteer Appreciation Night. And it is FCA going strong for 30 years. And when you open it, there are 2 pages in their brochure here, their annual report about educational support, about Foxborough High School, the video class, the ABC Ahern Broadcasting Club, the FHS TV Center, and the scholarship, which they want us to all remind people to apply for. They feel very proud that they are a part of this and can support education in this way, and they want to thank us for training up such good people who will become, I mean, some of
They are amazing partners, so we could
Right.
start by thanking Mike behind the
Yes,
wall.
yay, Mike.
And, but Bev,
But all of
if you could get Janet copies of those 2 pages, we can put it in the school committee packet for next time so that
Oh,
we can all
certainly.
read this very specific.
Absolutely.
They are unbelievable partners to the schools in so many ways, it would be hard to describe.
I mean, and just look how they've refurbished the equipment here and updated us with lights as much as they can, the cameras, and behind where Mike is sitting. It's excellent. Very supportive.
Thank you, Bev.
Congrats to them.
Congrats to them, not to us.
Anyone else?
I signed up for an appointment for a blood drive at the high school. Is that true? Do we know if there's a blood drive on February 5th? I thought I heard that.
I
Is
believe
it
there
on the
is.
website?
Yeah,
Is it on our main webpage?
I believe
I
there is
think there
one that's-
is a Red
yes.
Cross blood drive.
We might, folks watching or listening, or reading about the meeting might wanna look, see if there's any blood drives at Foxborough High School around the beginning of February, in case they wanna give.
I don't know if that would be exactly on the calendar, but
I just saw it in the news today and signed up, so.
there you go.
They give you
Is
free
it a-
Oreos at the end, so I.
I know next week is Turn Off the TV Week, and our elementary school PTOs are planning all kinds of activities at the various
awesome.
schools. And I happened to see the Taylor School flyer, and their PTO has a new activity this year. On Monday night, the Taylor staff is having a basketball game versus some Taylor parents.
Oh,
So
nice.
I think that could be a lot of fun.
Oh, definitely. Great.
Which week is that?
Next week.
Well,
Next
now
week.
that I have the evening free.
Now that we have a free evening, we can all go watch.
This is Monday evening?
That's Monday night, yeah.
Well,
And then I think they do a cake bake, and they have a story night, and I know the other elementary schools do as well, so.
Oh, good, American Red
Okay.
Cross blood drive is,
1 to 9 p.m. on Wednesday, February 5th. Yes, the
Thank
same
you.
night as the 3rd Annual District Parent Tech Night.
love our
Just thought I'd give
iPads.
another plug to that.
Very good.
Okay.
Oh,
great.
the Ahern Winter Carnival is Saturday from 11 to 2.
Thank you.
So, I
That's
know
fun.
Mrs. Gardner would very much like us to mention the Ahern Winter Carnival.
that's always
So,
fun.
It's a
Yes,
good
it
fundraiser
is.
for our
The
Ahern
first
Pack.
year in, the first year in
Saturday.
Yes, coming
6,
Saturday.
7 years that I can't go. But, I will miss it. 'cause
We'll let you know
really
how
is
it
fun.
goes.
It's good to see
Yes.
the kids having fun.
And I'll just add, since we pointed out the comment to our friends from the newspaper in the Patch, if Mike, and we complimented and thanked Mike in the back room doing the videoing, but if he could put a camera on the audience right now, the audience would see that the only 2 people here
Yes.
are the guys who give us such great support and reporting, so thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
You're a part of our
Thank you,
community.
Bruce.
You're
Yes.
here.
Very
There we
supportive.
go.
There are
Thank you, Mike.
There you go, all right. Thank you.
There's the patch and there's the reporter, experts.
All right.
Where's the
well,
popcorn?
Do we motion to adjourn?
Yes,
Second.
if we would like to. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5, thank you. Good night. Meeting
night.
adjourned.